Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Black British Parent Podcast. And today we have an amazing guest, a true brethren from the platform to the platform, Black British Parent. We got Dayna Byfield. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's an honor.
Yeah, please explain give our audience and understand your background and what you do.
God, it's a dangerous question.
Oh,
How far back should we go?
Boy, how far back? I almost swear, how far back can you go?
Okay, let me do a little mini bio. So, hi everybody, hi family. It's a pleasure to be here amongst friends once again. We've had some of the most prolific conversations in private, so it only feels right that once more we bring those conversations into the public. So I want to take you back, just for a little while back to childhood, set the scene, and then whiz forward so that you got some good context. So I grew up living very, very close to the BNP headquarters in Enfield, in fact, a bus ride away. So even just that one piece of intel tells you a little something about me. My environment growing up was a tale of two halves. Scary, dangerous, and chaotic on one side, and having a high-performance mother who had very high expectations, was very, very no-nonsense, and was determined that her daughter was going to be somebody on the other side. So it really was a tale of two worlds. I moved around a lot when I was young. I went to 5 different primary schools, 2 different secondary schools, lived in numerous boroughs and numerous homes. And in fact, a data scientist that I met once, when we were talking about my fondness for people and my skills in human connection, turned around to me and said, well, it makes sense that you're so good with people because I estimate you probably met around 10,000 people by the time that you were 13.
Gosh.
And I was and still am, a people nerd, observing people, watching people, trying to find out what made people tick, and always scanning the environment because quite a lot of my experiences were challenging. So I was kind of looking for danger. And I think that developed in me from a spiritual, but also very practical and biological place, the ability to be able to recognize patterns, especially with people. And that's a skill that, if we fast forward, has always stood me in very good stead. I've always had the ability to be able to make meaningful connections with people, inspire people to be the best that they can, and to be very, very influential in the lives of others. At the moment, I'm studying at the London Interdisciplinary School. I'm doing a double award master's. And thank you very much. And that program, again, is geared towards complex problem solving and really filling in the blanks that a lot of us have if we're specialists. So think coding, data science, anthropologies, art, sciences, humanities. So it's really about thinking in full spectrum, which is something that is normal and natural for me. I've had many different lives, many different careers. I was a young mum at 18, in the world, bringing up a young child and all the experiences that entails. I've worked in industries as varied as retail. I did door-to-door sales at one point. I've been a cleaner. By the way, I'm very, very proud of the fact that I used to clean other people's homes because that was part of me understanding how other people lived. I got to peer behind the veil of how people who were wealthy got to live. And that gave me inspiration that what I came from wasn't the definition of me. So that's something I like to speak about quite often. That I'm very, very proud of that endeavor and how I took that to change my life. I ran a financial services company. I've spoken on some very illustrious platforms all over the world and done lots of work, but I always come back to human beings, people, what makes us tick, and how can we be more of who we are. And professionally at the moment, people would recognize me maybe as a consultant, a coach, a mentor, a strategist. Those are the things that will probably most be known to other people. I also go by the moniker, the people whisperer. I often meet people. A gentleman I met recently said, well, I feel like a book. And I said to him, don't worry, I've spent a lifetime assessing and learning about people and growing and developing. So I've got a little bit of a head start and a curve.
Yes, so that's why I didn't introduce you. I was just saying your name. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Dayna Byfield. No, but honestly, I think from the first time I met you, I can't remember when that was.
Too long ago now.
It would have been.
In a good way.
Yeah, no. And every time I meet you, it's like further cementation of why I know you and why we still know each other, sort of thing. It's always been a profound experience. And I remember the first time you joined us on an Instagram Live, and that live exploded on our platform in such a way. And I think it was talking about group economics and investing in black communities, etc. And that conversation just went crazy. I think it was one of our most shared conversations on the platform as well. So grateful that we can finally have you on our podcast.
After how many years?
After how many years.
Yeah.
And it's always a blessing to be in your presence.
Thank you.
Before we get into this profound, I know it's going to be a deep one, conversation, I always start off with an icebreaker with my guests.
Yeah.
Which is simple question. It's not that simple. The question is simple, but it's what's your favorite movie, all-time favorite movie?
Oh,
See the half.
I'm a real pick and mix girl, so asking me a question like that is so.
And there's a lot of different films that's coming out more lately as well.
So many different genres. This probably is not my best film of all time, but it's a film that I immensely enjoy and come back to time and time again, and that's The Best Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good movie.
Yes.
It's a classic.
Yeah. I just feel like it's one you can just kind of roll out, and even though at this point I probably know it word for word, it's always a feel good movie.
It's like the
I
modern
love that movie.
of that era, the coming to America of that era. If you can just watch it over and over
Exactly.
again. Yeah. That's
Exactly.
wicked. That's good. Okay. So you before was talking about people reading and observing people and being intrigued by what makes people tick. Something I relate to a great deal. Isn't that overwhelming sometimes? Because, like it's a double-edged sword sometimes, knowing what to do with that ability, because it can be sometimes seen as a blessing and a curse, if you get what I'm saying.
If you'd asked me many years ago, maybe I would have said yes. If we look at superheroes and comics, that world, we all know that all superheroes have their version of a kryptonite, right? But it's when you learn how to wield that power, when you learn more about who you are, and one thing that people around me are going to hear is be more you. And that moniker is one that I stick by, because the more I've learned to be myself and accept who I am, the wider my life has become.
Yeah.
And looking at personality through the lens of personal evolution, I kind of stopped using the term personal development, because it kind of feels like you're a project or something that needs to be worked on or fixed. I feel like human beings are more of a work of art, like a sculpture.
Yeah, development seems like there's an end goal,
Exactly.
when really in life there isn't,
Exactly.
is there really?
Yeah.
I hear you.
So now I see it as an immense privilege, and with that privilege comes an immense responsibility, especially with the type of personality that I have, which I would characterize as like the sun. Very magnetic, very influential. It's really easy to use that power for things that aren't good.
Yeah.
Because it comes so naturally and easily. But once I accepted that, let me lean into that playful side of myself. And this is a lifetime journey, but it was only a couple of years ago. I realized that I was still holding a lot of challenges around being an African Caribbean woman and wanting to be taken seriously and having to present as a serious person and pushing down that playful side of me. And the day I realized that was what I was doing, I said no more. And it's been one of the makings of me and also my professional life. And when I started researching play, I've always been a very, kind of person who's very energetic and those types of things. And growing up in a Caribbean household with lots going on, lots of music, it was something that at home I leaned into a lot, but not so much outside because of some of the challenges that I'd had earlier in life. When I started researching play, what I realized was that when you inject play and enjoyment, or more aptly, should I say, the research that I was coming across, was that typically human beings need about 400 repetitions of exposure to something before we really get it, commit it to memory, and then it becomes a habit. I know some people say 21 days, 90 days, that type of thing. But actually, it's the level of exposure, the repetition of exposure that counts. So that's where we start. There's only one thing that makes an exception to that 400 rule, and that is play. When you inject play and enjoyment, we take that 400 repetitions and we bring it down to between only 10 and 40. So the thing that I was holding back for a lifetime was actually the thing that I should have been leaning into. Yeah. And that was mind-blowing for me. And that's why I always say to people, be more you. And that's reflected in my personal life at home with my husband and children and family, but it's also reflected into my professional life as well. And that's something I very much lean into. So when I work with companies, organizations, and individuals, I inject some of that natural and built skill, personality that I already have into those proceedings. And one of the things that hurts me so much, and I think is such a crime against humanity, is that it is the things that are natural to us, the things that come easy, the things that we don't think about, the things that are so embodied, it's even hard for us to sit back and work out the steps. Like if somebody said, can you show me how to do that? That's a challenge to do unless you've practiced.
Yeah.
It's those things that are our secret sauce and the gateway to the life we want, the family we want, the partner, the spouse that we want. Like this is powerful stuff. Once you really understand who it is that you are, you can work out where you fit, where you belong, who you fit with. The saying opposites attract is very true, but I would take out the word opposite and I would insert completion. So more often for people who are looking for a spouse, what you will find is the universe will naturally find you someone who is your state of completion. So if you are a high energetic person, the harmony of the universe is to pair you with someone who's a little bit cool.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And that's something that I say a lot, especially to high achieving, high performing women who are looking for a spouse. Like sometimes if we have a certain energetic predisposition, we have to understand that that's nature's way of completion and harmonizing. Because if you have two fire personalities, that is going to be a lot of fire. So sometimes if you're very fiery and you would like to attract somebody that's also quite fiery for the purpose of setting up a family, sometimes you might have to dial it back a little bit. Otherwise you can become quite disappointed at not finding who you think is your equal. And often who you think is your equal is not a direct reflection of that completion.
Yeah. Okay, so you're known as the authority on personality dynamics.
I am indeed.
what does that mean exactly? And how did you get into this work?
Okay. So the authority on personality dynamics, what that means for me is that I have amassed a certain level of experience and skill when it comes to the art of people. Let me explain a little bit further. So we each have our own personality. And I codify that by color, which is something that I'm sure we will talk about, especially when it comes to relationships in the workplace. That is a hidden, unseen world. And one of my innate talents and something that I've worked on as a skill is to be able to help others facilitate and understand who they are. So that mix of personality has different dynamics that lend itself. So a person who is a cooler temperament, like a blue personality type, will often report to me, for example, that they have issues with procrastination, right? Because they just have a slower, natural temperament. They kind of speak slower, they think a lot, they want to have the picture completed first before they start moving. They need high structure and they've got impeccable standards, very, very, very precise, only the best will do. But they never have a problem with procrastination, typically. The challenge normally is that in that particular area that they say they're procrastinating in, they don't have the right system, framework, procedure, policy. As soon as you get the framework, system, policy in place, and they know that it's right enough, they'll move.
Yeah, the procrastination no longer there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is an aspect of a dynamic within that type of person. So imagine someone's going around for years thinking that they're a procrastinator and they're trying to use strategies that are anti-procrastination. Typically what's going to happen is it's going to make the situation worse. So that's one example of where I can have a very quick conversation, assess a situation, and actually say to somebody, well, if we tried this, how would that work? Or if we're working with a leader, for example, who is more of my personality temperament, quite outgoing, gregarious, and that leader says to someone with a blue personality, oh, I trust you to get on with it, I don't micromanage, that type of thing. They don't understand that is like, computer says no, because that personality type needs structure, framework. You have to give them something to get started, otherwise they will be as still as a weighted stone. And it looks like that they're doing it on purpose, they're trying to be mean, they're trying to stall. You've just switched off their ability to move forward. You can do that with other personality types, like a red, who is very action orientated. They need freedom, just let them get on with it. So that's what I mean when it comes to personality dynamics. There's the internal world and then there's the external world. And how we navigate those two worlds is through the dynamics of personality.
Very interesting. Very relatable. Very clear. How did you come about this concept of relating personalities to colors?
Okay. So part of this was purposeful and part of this is just sort of developmental. When I was a kid, for whatever reason, I looked at people through temperature. Like, oh, this is a person that's kind of quite hot. And this is a person that's quite cool. And one of the things about me also is that I am a very proud person with dyslexia. And one of the key dyslexic skills is connecting. It's understanding self, understanding others, and influencing others as well, right? So that's where it started, obviously completely unconsciously. It was literally observing the environment. And then as I began to mature and go into the world and find myself in work, and I came across sort of like, personality testing and that type of things, I was like, this stuff is great. Like, I'm doing the assessments and I love a quiz. I really, 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 I love a quiz. I love a quiz. Tell me whatever aspect, right? Love to fill them things in. But then I realized that this is not practical and workable on a day-to-day basis. Like, even if you know, for example, that you're an ENFP, you cannot remember all the other 15 personality types. It's not practical. And one thing about me, I'm going to try and skip steps, still get the best result, but make it simple, plain, clear, and accessible. I want it to be metabolizable and to be part of you. And all of us already have an existing relationship to color. And we have an existing relationship to the elements because we are of the earth. So there's less of a barrier in having to acquire knowledge and more linking it to the intuitive and experiential environment that we're already in.
Are you allowed to say what colours match what personalities?
Yes.
Too much. Okay, go on.
So I could give, oh no, this is like, I could be talking about this stuff all day, every day, all day, every day. So real quick summary, because unfortunately, family, we don't have the time to go, because I could be here for hours. I could be here for hours. Okay. So I'm going to go into more detail about this in my upcoming book.
Great.
So at the time,
when's that coming out? You're not sure?
I'm not sure when this podcast will be released, but if the book is not ready when the episode is released, it will be soon after. So do check back and, look for the links below the video. So I'm going to go into more detail in the book. However, red, yellow, green, and blue. So red is your fire personality. That's, as you were saying, someone that's quite hot, fiery, passionate. But the key thing with them is they're very action orientated. They're dominant. They want to control things, not because they woke up this morning and said, I'm going to be a controller. Their personality developed, and we'll touch on how and why the personality develops and what contributes to that. They have a high need for autonomy, and they will run through walls to make sure things get done. They are task-focused people. Their blind spot is people, right? So these are folks that people say, sometimes they're inconsiderate, they're not empathic, they're rude, they're abrasive, they want things all of their own way. And
aggressive, all these things, yeah.
All of those things. But you need a problem, you need a solution.
They will get to it.
They will crank out that work day after day after day after day like a machine. Because of that, they're very susceptible to burnout. So our red cousins, very, very susceptible to burnout. You need to chill out a little bit, right? Then you've got your yellow personality types, like the sun. The sun ain't got no direction. It's got no focus. It comes up, it shines, and it goes about its business. So trying
to think of the amount of people I know that's like that.
Exactly. So very influential, magnetic personality. These are people that others think are cheaters. Things come to them, opportunities, jobs, contacts, and it looks like they're just sitting around, twiddling their thumbs, going out to nice meetings, and not really doing very much. The challenge is you can't see all the background work that they've been doing for decades. You don't see all the relationship skills, the courses that they've been on, all the networking, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So what looks like, and one of the things that life has taught me is that anything that looks like it's easy, usually there's been a lot of heavy lifting to acquire that. So if we look at someone like our formidable cousin, Simone Biles, who is literally the definition of non-reality. She makes that stuff look easy. Even if you have a talent underlying, you have a genetic predisposition that is positive for that thing. No one is just waking up being like a Simone Biles.
Yeah.
Right? The work that must have gone into that craft is insane. And that's what our yellow cousins have been. They've been honing that craft. They have an adaptability to be able to navigate the world in a way that looks like they're skipping steps because they are. The focus for the yellow is the connection, relationships, personality. They would rather rip up the business deal than do the deal if it's going to affect the relationship. They have a need for that social connection, and they're ruled by that need for connection, right? Then we have our green cousins. These are your earth people. These are the people, them can be anywhere. Them can be bossed up as the Lidl, Harrods, Marks and Spencer's. Someone is going to find them, tell them, stranger going to tell you the whole life story. And our green cousins are wondering, why is that people keep coming and telling me everything? Because people can feel the aura. We can feel the aura of all of them, but specifically with the green personality type, there is a natural aura that is justice-centered.
Safe.
Very trusted,
Grounded.
very trustworthy, very stable.
Grounded.
So when they go out into the world, people just feel that. The only person that don't know what's going on is the
them.
green, right? Greens, our lovely green cousins, they are triggered into action by what is in the best interest of other people, right? And they can become frustrated because they're like, what about me? And they can be a little bit more on the people-pleasing side, can have challenges holding strong, firm boundaries. But what a lot of our green cousins do not realize is, similarly to the yellow cousins, our green cousins, again, have an unparalleled ability to be able to move through the world. These are your people that in the workplace, they are sorting out conflict. People are coming to them. They're keeping the team together. They're keeping the whole blasted company together. But they're doing it invisibly. Because, again, people know that they can be trusted. So people will come and confide in them, tell them the new idea, tell them what's going on. So our green cousins are firefighting all the time. So I always say to companies, make sure you value your green people and pay them accordingly, because they're not going to ask for a pay rise. And they shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Because the return on investment you get on them is so high. You need to put proper programs in place to be able to lead and develop them in a way that works for their personality, because they're not generally braggadocious, they're not particularly extroverted, they love people, they want to do what's best for people.
And they're not over demanding.
You can trust these people, but don't take advantage of that. And that is the same in personal relationships as well. They can be loyal to a fault sometimes, but it's just a case of tweaking those boundaries to help them keep stronger boundaries. Also, green cousins, you are never going to succeed in life in any way by doing it like a red. You just ain't. Stop it. You're not going to be doing it like a red. You're not going to be doing it like a yellow. You've got to do it your way.
Yeah.
And your way is very, very powerful. And we need more green leaders in the world because they come with a natural sense of efficacy. Everything else we can kind of train and deal with.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with you, and you're not too this or too quiet or too whatever. You're just perfect the way that you are. But you need to understand that you are badass in your way. And I know that can be challenging because everyone's always trying to like talk about the red and...
Hey family, we hope you're enjoying the show. If you want to stay up to date with all things Black British Parent, we've got the perfect way for you to do just that. Join our mailing list and be the first to know about new episodes, exciting news, and upcoming events. It's super easy to sign up. Just head over to our website and into your email. Don't miss out on the latest from Black British Parent. Join our community today. Now, back to the show.
And we get that completion I was talking about. And we can get everyone on the same page.
Yeah.
We're knocking this baby out of the park. And that's whether we're talking about the office, the boardroom, or the home. It becomes more challenging once you have multiple people who are of a similar personality type. Too many cooks. And because we're replicating all of the areas of challenge also. So we don't get that harmony and that completion. So that
4 colours. That definitely answered that. Thank you. That was quite in depth and simple as well. Yeah. So it's red, yellow, blue, and
red,
green.
yellow, green, and blue.
Yeah. Red, yellow, green, and blue.
Yeah. So my caveat always is when I speak at conferences or I'm working with individuals or companies, I always say, listen, this is like science and art merged together. What we're aiming for, why are you looking at me like that? What we're aiming for is to develop emotionally intelligent people. And you know, people like to throw these catch-all words around.
Yeah.
What does emotional intelligence mean? It means I have a good understanding of me. and I can manage myself, I have a good understanding potentially of you, and I can manage that relationship.
I can understand
right.
the balance.
But what I am attempting to do as an emotionally intelligent person is center this interaction around who I am, but who the possibility of you is as well. So I'm bending my communication arc in a way that more suits you so that we can have a better relationship. So even if, let's say you were talking to somebody and you thought they were a red personality and they were yellow, the fact that you are taking the time to even focus and identify who this person is, you're already ahead of 95% of the population. Yeah. Most of our challenges with each other come down to, yes, lack of communication, as we say, but we never go into depth and define these things. It's our ability to able to be in relationship with one another. That is the challenge. But if we're starting from the point of, I'm seeking to understand who this person is and bend my communication around them so that we can have a better relationship, we're always winning. When we have these discussions, often people will start now, it's like the red car. Connection. Like once you can see, you can't unsee. Yeah. You go on LinkedIn, social media, especially LinkedIn, and you look at the colors that people use for their background. And you'll see consistently, like you'll have the blue and they'll have a lot of blue, and then the yellow, and they'll have all off shades. So you'll have reds, people that are using a lot of pink because it's still an undertone of red. So once you can see, you can't unsee. And that was my aim with this system, that it was so easy to metabolize that it becomes part of you. So you don't really need to think
too much about it. Yeah,
you're
really
just
familiar.
Leading yourself with intuition.
And it's like you said, making it less complex and just more relatable and straight to the point.
Yeah.
So how much of our personality do you think is shaped by how we are raised, and how much is just who we naturally are? Did I ask the wrong question?
No. That was a good shuffle. That was a good shuffle. So again, this is like my life's work. So I'm always excited to dive into these issues. So I developed a framework called the B3 framework, which is the braided 3 framework, like a braid. And that consists of our behavior, which is what we've sort of been talking about with personality, our beliefs, and our human biology. Yeah. And then in the middle is you. So if you look at overlapping circles, you're in the middle, you've got your behavior, your belief, and your biology. So if we look at effectively what is the nature versus nurture debate, there are certain things about the design of human beings and biology that's fixed until we know otherwise, right? You have a central nervous system. That nervous system is going to work in a certain way. It's going to react to certain things, okay? So that's the biology piece. That we're born with, okay? You have a brain, you have a nervous system, here we are. Now, the first 7 years of development is typically where our personalities are shaped. Because we adapt and develop our personality to survive the family and community unit that we find ourselves in. So I'll give you an example. If you grow up in a home where it's very chaotic, that can be the beginnings of a yellow personality, because this is a trying to get attention. If chaos is going on, you're not the center of attention. So you see a lot of people, celebrities in the public eye, struggle with their personal relationships with themselves. In a rehab, for example, a lot of comedians are one of the biggest populations of depressives.
Yeah, they're the most serious people, given that their profession is to make people laugh. It's quite a
So you got to trace that back.
Yeah.
Right? They developed that personality to survive that chaotic, potentially family system. Like I said at the beginning, had a very high performance parent who was no nonsense and was not accepting anything but 100. So it's not surprising that I developed a red personality. It was because that was how I survived that family system. You'll have people, for example, that their parents are no nonsense about academia. Sometimes those folks go down the blue route. thinking, very considered, very meta. So that first 7 years, and I always say to people, that first 7 years is your job. Not to go out to work, not to earn money, and no one out here is eating fresh air. We understand that. That 7 years is where a soul is either won or lost. And the 7 is recurrent throughout life. But when a child is in that first 7 years, their brain is in a state of theta. They take in everything from the world and they cannot discriminate. The second most important cycle is that second 7. So what you're doing in that first 14 years,
a big deal.
You can never get that time back. So that
again,
extra shift you're doing, this, that, and the other, I've got to earn money. I understand. People are not eating out of fresh air. But understand, you never get a chance to retrieve a lost soul. Right? So if we get it right.
No, of course not. But at least being accountable during that time, so whatever mistakes or whatever shows up,
Yes,
you do manage
the
it
best
as
that
best
you
as you
can.
can.
But
yeah.
I've got to work to earn money. I'm afraid is not good enough, because that is where the intergenerational cycle is won or lost.
Yeah.
So you're seeding it at that point, and of course things can change and we can grow and develop.
Yeah.
But as we all know, with any habit, something that is natural to us and that's been ingrained at a time where we have no ability to be able to discriminate.
Yeah.
So only really 7, 8, 9, we start being critical of the world around us.
Yeah.
So we've covered the biology standpoint, we've covered the personality, which is the behavior and kind of how we develop that to survive. And I use that word purposely. It's to survive that family system. Who do I need to be to survive here?
Yeah.
And that's whether you had a great childhood, a good childhood, not so good childhood. Every child has to develop a personality as a means to be able to survive the environment that they find themselves in. And then we have beliefs. Again, a lot of our beliefs are shaped in those early years, right? So it's a cocktail, a petri dish of our biology, our belief, and our behavior. And one of the key learnings I got about our biological responses was when I met my husband. This man that I was praying for, right, showed up, and I was a mess because it registered as dangerous to my nervous system, because I wasn't used to somebody that was just sort of calm, steady, did what they said they were going to do when they said they were going to do it, because my early baseline was chaotic. So I was all over the place. Got myself together eventually. But that was a key lesson for me in 2011, where I was like, a lot of people are out in these streets ruining what is the best thing for them, because they just don't know that they're having a correct biological response.
Kudos to both of you for making those adjustments and for his perseverance and consistency.
Yeah.
Because that takes a lot of work from both sides, doesn't it?
Yes.
Just think about the many missed opportunities for relationships under those bases. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but that's,
Yeah, so that was a really important bit of personal experience for me to understand, like, we can be out here ruining lives and it's not our fault. But through education and understanding and being more you can learn. So I have this example, which I really love to talk about, which really gets this in a nutshell. Most of us have had an experience or spoken to somebody or seen something on television or social media where someone's on a beach and they run up to the sea and it's cold. And they dip their toe in and then they recoil because it's so cold. So I like to say that the difference between the life you have now and the things that you want is your ability to keep going into the sea when it's cold. Because the reason why you have that recoil response is because the body can feel that the temperature has plummeted.
Yeah.
So all that means is that we might be dying to the body. The body has two imperatives: survival and procreation. And obviously the first imperative comes first. So you put your foot in the sea, it's cold, you take your foot out. But what I found one day is, if you get your neck underwater, right, there's a nerve called the vagus nerve. Once the vagus nerve is like, oh, we're still alive. Suddenly you acclimatize to the water, and it's like that feeling of being cold has gone. And what many people are trying to do in life, they're trying to miss the step between dipping your toe in the water and it's cold and getting your neck in the water. You will acclimatize, but only if you keep going into the sea. So that is an example that I like to use with reference to our biology. And our biology is serving to protect us. But those protective mechanisms don't care about our goals, our dreams, what we want to do, what we want to achieve, what we want to stop, what we want to start. But you can make the difference by not only dipping your toe in the water, but committing to getting neck deep. And the more you commit to neck deep, the body just learns like, oh, we're still alive.
Yeah.
And it will let you do your thing.
That sounds so simple, but scary at the same time, because enough time I put my toe in that water and it's cold. Even back home, the water certain times still cold. You expect it to be warmer, but yeah. So do you think parents should tailor their parenting style based on their child's personality?
Absolutely. Whilst we're talking about personality tests, because they're my favorite things, one of the things that we found for our son, similar to the colors that I expressed, was a quiz that gives you birds. So instead of, for children, instead of the red, it would be an eagle child. Instead of the yellow, it would be a parrot. Instead of the green, it would be a dove. And instead of the blue, it would be an owl. If you have a dove child who is incredibly sensitive, that's their nature. They're not putting it on or this, that, and the other. And you are screaming and shouting and hollering at that child, whether they deserve it or not. I'm not getting into that, because sometimes they pick them drive us wild. And we know it.
But the reality
is you are soul crushing
that child.
And that's just death in slow motion. And you've got to get yourself together and learn how to proactively communicate with your dove child. Right? The same as, like, we've got our little one, he's a parrot. If he was in the jungle, he'll be flying around, party, 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 party. That one, intelligent as the day is long, funny as he comes out with certain things. He's so funny. He is not one that is going to sit down and focus on academic work without some sort of incentive. He just isn't. He's a fantastic reader, but he's a parrot. His thing is the fun and what is social. So we've had to learn, and we're still in that process. What things can we do to incentivize him? He's 10. Okay. To sit down and focus. And one of the ways that we found, I'll keep it real, is to pay him to do certain things. Do a book report, you get paid. He's got a chart at the moment with certain responsibilities. He does certain things. He gets a certain amount of ticks. He's getting money because that's what resonates with him. And yes, we can talk about moralistically and internal motivation and all of those things. We want him to write. He's a parrot child. He's not interested. So all of the, you need to be internally motivated in the world is not going to sit down.
Yeah.
He's going to be externally motivated and complete the task. Now,
and to people that think that mind your business, number one.
I don't mind.
I know,
criticism
but
is
still,
good.
no. There's not wrong with criticism, but mind your business. Like, what's you and yours? No, I shouldn't really say that. And the other thing is, but on the real. But what are we? I mean, that perspective is definitely valid.
Yes.
But ultimately, we are doing things to get paid. In the end, at some point, we want to get paid.
But
for
I
what
get
we
the
do,
more moral perspective, which is that we want our children to be internally motivated and not externally motivated. And he is internally motivated by things that he likes. He's a parrot and go and chat and do anything. At the moment, he's learning 3 different languages off his own back.
Without
you don't
being
have
paid.
to tell him, and you don't need to pay him for that. He loves animals. He can tell you about this species of whale and turtle, and he watches this channel on YouTube called Ants Canada. So sometimes he's like, oh, Mum, there's a queen ant and this and that and the other, blah, 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 blah. He loves animals.
So
he wants to...
Them people that need to mind the business.
So the things that he wants to focus on and the things that he likes, he's into investing. He's like, yeah, I'm going to own like 5 businesses and whatever. And then you have your eagle child. You will be in a tough argument with an eagle child every single day if you're not ease up. It's not command and control. If you want them to develop into the best person that they can be, the eagle child needs more freedom than the dove child. The dove child needs a bit more structure.
Yeah.
The eagle child needs responsibility, and they need you to ease up. The more you try and force them to do what they don't want to do, and then you're going to end up in some backward and forward thing. Because remember, eagles, they fly high, Eagles are they're going about their business. Yeah. And I understand, yes, they're your children, and there's a level when it comes to certain things, you need them to listen, safety and whatever. But once an eagle gets to a certain point in life, it has to make a decision about 40 years old, whether it's going to live or die. And it literally goes through a process similar to death. You are not going to outshout and outtell an eagle child what to do. Give them the proper environment, guidelines, give them responsibility, let them go take over this project or do a certain thing in the house. They will rise to that occasion. And it's not favoritism. Because this is a question I've had before. Well, if I'm treating one child this way, but you and I are not the same.
Yeah.
Different people require different things.
And you're a different person at different stage of parenting. Right. Your children different ages and they're all different personalities. Right. So
you will have harmony if you learn how to bend around the needs of your child, and you'll have more peace fundamentally. That's your responsibility as a parent, in your home. Really.
And
people are, but I'm so busy and I'm working and I've got to go out and earn money and whatever. I know what you're saying, Dayna, but they should just listen to me and do whatever. I said, okay, so you've listened to every single thing you've been told in your life. You've done every single thing the way that you were told to do it, when you were told to do it. You've never, I think we need to
And you still don't as an adult.
Right?
You know what I mean? As a grown up.
So yeah, the long-winded answer is that you should definitely be bending around the needs of your child.
So on that though, how can we do that as parents without feeling like we have to be a different parent for each child?
So think of it, as opposed to being a different parent to each child, think of it as the unique relationship that you have with that child. The same way your relationship with your mom, if you've got siblings, is different. You've got friends that are different. No one's out here saying, oh, I'm upset because I have to speak to mommy one way, I have to speak to my sister one way. It's exactly the same thing. And that manifestation and expression of those different relationships in the long run makes it easier for everybody. There's a little learning curve at the start, and there's tools that you can use that can aid you to get started, like quiz assessments for children. And we'll make sure that there's information about how parents can tap into these very simple, plain resources that can also be shared with all of the other responsible adults. So I don't want my child going to school and I've got an eagle child and any teacher is trying to deal with my child in a certain way. I can present this document, sit down and have a meeting with the teacher and say, we've invested a lot as a family to make sure that our child has what they need. Our child is an eagle child. They need a little bit of freedom. How can we make this happen? It could be sports coaches that they're dealing with, teachers, other parents, family members. So you're able to use these tools as education devices for different people who care for these children so that we can all be singing from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah. So the next 4 questions you already answered.
I like to be efficient. I said to you, the yellow, skipping steps.
Yeah. So beyond parenting, how can
Yes.
understanding personality dynamics help with romantic relationships, friendships, and even work life? I saw this one. I knew you'd love to answer this. So I could yamming it up.
I love it just a little bit. So let's take the 3 primary most important relationships that a person will have and go from there. So the 3 primary relationships that we have over a lifespan is the relationship we have with ourselves, the relationship we have with our spouse, and the relationship that we have to work. The people who are paying attention will notice that I didn't mention children.
I was about to say, but wait.
Because when we look at the time that we spend with our children over a lifetime,
Yeah.
once they hit about 20, the time that we spend with them tapers
Big
off.
vibes, yeah.
And I'm speaking to all my parents right now. This is why it is important for you to have a life that is independent
Of your children.
of your children. And what I mean by that is not that you're leaving them in the house to go to Las Vegas for 2 weeks, because some people like to be out here
But
making
why
up all
not?
types
I want
of
to
stuff.
go to Las Vegas. No, I'm joking.
So make sure the picnic them are
Just
okay and they have a
give me.
sitter. People go to the wild. What are you trying to say, Dayna? Like, we should just no. What I'm saying is that your whole life should not be wrapped around these children, because as the cycle of life grows, they are going to grow up and have their own life. And you will get to 18 when they're 18, 20, and you will wonder where the last 20 years has gone. But that's another conversation for another day. Okay. So I did not mention children because that's a very important relationship. But when we look at the lion's share of where we spend our time, it's with ourselves, it's with our spouse,
And at work.
and it is at work. Whatever you're doing, whether you're in an office, whether you're at home, whatever you choose to do for work. Okay. So how can understanding your own personality aid you in these areas? Now, a really important thing for me when I was writing the book was, one, just to get it done, because I've been talking for years, talking for years. But the other thing was that I wrote a book that people would be invested in reading. So it's a bite-sized book, which I love. So it's one of those ones you can get in and out in an afternoon and
They're the best ones.
start actioning
Yeah.
right away. For my reds. For my yellows, it's going to allow you to connect and influence with other folks. For my greens, it's going to allow you to do the best for others and make a great impact. And for my blues, it's going to allow you to do them tasks quicker that you need to do, right? So the book is actually written from the position of the workplace. And the reason why I decided to do that, because in this society, people are very driven by finance. So sometimes, like with Zion and reading, it ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. And that's what gets results. So phrasing it in the workplace will mean that more people will watch it. Because even if you don't have a workplace and you're self-employed, you deal with people all the time, right? Yeah. So imagine you turn up to work, first day, and Shirley's on reception. Now, we all know reception and admin staff be running up this place, okay? And you walk in and you say, "Oh, morning, Shirley." And Shirley hardly looks up, puts down her glasses and says, "Morning," and goes back to what she's doing. That is a cue to the type of personality that Shirley has. She's probably softer spoken. She didn't say very much. She didn't even look up properly. That's giving me cool temperament. So I'm like, got it, you might be a blue. So I know when I speak to Shirley, I need data, information, specifics. I'm not going to waffle too much. And as you guys can probably tell, I love the talk, right? If I turn up to an office building and Shirley says, "Morning," and goes back to work, I'm just going to politely greet her, let her know who I'm here to meet, and wish her a good day.
But if you didn't know that about yourself, you might have approached her differently, and that would have been a clash of
And I
personalities
might have
in the
thought,
workplace.
but she rude though.
Yeah,
She bad mind.
yeah,
and that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
that also isn't the truth.
No, yeah.
However, people have their particular dispositions. Blue people are task focused. Shirley's getting on with her work.
And then we might end up projecting our
Bingo.
childhood stuff or experiences, not even just childhood, adult stuff, onto that person who's just innocently just being a blue.
They're just minding their own business. And that is such a key point you've raised about our stuff, because our stuff comes to the surface and then we make assumptions. Now, there is a possibility where Shirley could be being bad mind.
Yeah.
Right? But I want to navigate you through the environment. Yeah. So that's Shirley, front desk, minimal contact. She didn't even look upon you. She's about her work. Shirley now goes and gets your new manager. And Kofi comes out. Kofi is, oh my God, so great to meet you. We've been really excited to have you. I spoke to Kanisha and I said to Kanisha, make sure you pull up a chair with her, and I've organized for you to meet all these people in the first week. Kofi's probably a yellow person. So I know when I engage with Kofi, I need to bring some energy. He's about the connection. I'm never going to walk into Kofi's office and say, Kofi, that project that's due to be delivered, I'm never doing that. I haven't established any rapport or connection. And of course, in the workplace, we do a lot of kind of mindless, oh, hi, how are you? How's your weekend? Whatever. With Kofi, you're going to get the best out of that relationship. If you remember that his child was going to football on Saturday, Kofi, how was football? Yeah, it was good, it was good, You have to warm it up a little bit. Then you go to, the project, right? So then you've had your first week. Kofi's arranged all of these meet and greets for you. He's introduced you to everybody in the team. And then he's buddying you up with Janelle. And you're going to be working with Janelle for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Now, Janelle hardly says 2 words to you. Janelle's got work to do. She's policy, procedure. Here's the policy for this. Here's the policy for that. Here's the procedure. This is what I need you to do.
Another blue.
Bingo.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I'm getting there.
So what it allows you to do is, with educated guesses, because again, like I said, this is not exact, but you are like a homing beacon moving around this office and organization, picking up data and intel about others. And that's where emotional intelligence comes from. I'm seeking to get the best from these relationships. I know if I want to get a promotion and Kofi is the person that is the gatekeeper for promotion, I don't care whether you're an energetic person or not. You better mosey up and find some energy. He is not going to put you forward. Match his spirit unless you match his spirit to some extent. And I'm not saying, because this is something that people push back.
And there's matching,
right?
Yeah.
What can you do to connect with that person is not about changing who you are.
Yes, I hear you.
So if you're a blue person, you still be a blue person. You just make sure that people are a line item on your list. And it sounds super cold, but that's the language that blue people understand. Like the same way you have a to-do list, people need to be on your to-do list, right? You need to make a note. This week, I'm going to say hello to 5 people in 5 different departments, because you won't do it otherwise. You're just not wired that way, right? But if Kofi's going to be the one who's going to be your sponsor, you're going to need to engage more towards his communication style, not changing who you are and pretending you're a yellow.
And people kind of do that anyway sometimes, but just in a different
format. And everybody likes people that are like themselves.
Yeah.
So the more that you can move towards Kofi's style, right, the better you will be. So now you've done a couple of weeks, and Kofi's like, hey, you're doing good. Da, 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 da. Let me introduce you to the CEO of the company. The CEO comes in and looks at the watch and says, hi, Dayna. So I know you're checking the time, right? So that's my first clue, potentially, about your personality, but I haven't really observed anything else yet. The CEO is speaking in short sentences that are focused on an outcome. I'm going to make an educated guess that this is a red CEO. So when I'm engaging with you, I'm moving more towards your communication style. Yeah. So Dayna, it's great to meet you. Thank you for coming to see me this morning. Has Kofi introduced you to everybody? blah, 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 blah. Okay, so what do you need to do?
Yeah.
Right? So if I want to build a relationship with CEO
Come
Marlon,
with the direct things and
I need to come with a direct thing, and I need to also come with solutions. One of the things that red people hate, don't bring me problems. Don't tell me how it can't be done. Don't bring me problems. I need solutions.
Maybe
so
I'm a red.
even girl. So even if you do have a problem, come to Marlon and tell him all the things that you've done. Marlon, morning, do you have 5 minutes? And if you need 5, say 5. Don't say 8. And don't say, have you got 2 minutes? No, be
specific.
Yeah, be specific. Right. Marlon, this is a situation. Give him a brief overview. I've done this. I've spoken to Shirley, gone to accounts, gone through this. Because he's already filtering for what you've done already before you come to me. And you need to let him, even though you tell him you've done 10 things already, what is the next thing that you're going to do? And then you leave it to him to now reply. So between Shirley, Kofi, Janelle, and Marlon, not only are you just now a G, right? Doesn't mean they like you and they think you're the best and you're never going to be best friends. No. It means that in that building, you're pretty much in the top 98% of people when it comes to building relationships and communications.
Because you're on their radar.
Because you've leaned towards their communication style. The World Economic Forum released a report recently, which is the Future of Work 2025. And the top 10 areas of focus over the next couple of decades, out of the top 10, 5 of those were people or personal skills related. Right?
Yeah.
So in the age of AI and moving forward, that combination of artificial intelligence and human intelligence is going to be the people that are really skilled with others who are going to rise to the top.
Yeah.
Because there are so many things that machines can do. The people who have the people skills are going to be rare commodities. There are not going to be many people like you in an organization. And this works whether you're self-employed, you have a business, you're in an organization, you're always working with people. If you're selling and you get on a sales call and somebody's speaking really slow and they're asking a lot of questions, it's probably a blue person. If you know that, then you know you're going to over-index on information.
Yeah.
If they're a red person, they're talking really quick and they're like, right, I like this thing. I just need you to tell me what the steps are. And you've got this whole script. I'm not saying abandon your script now. I'm saying understand. The fact that they're there probably means they're ready to go. Yeah. They're ready to pull the trigger. They just need to know, like, these 3 points. They're ready to go. Don't go through the whole script.
They don't need convincing. They already want to do whatever it is.
Because they're action focused.
Yeah.
So now you're starting to see how this builds up as like a bad boy repertoire, right? So that's kind of work, business, career. Okay. Now, when it comes to your spouse and spousal relationships, I already spoke a little bit about that kind of completion. The more you understand yourself, one of the principles is, the more you can accept others. The more you've accepted yourself, the more you can accept other people. I can only meet you where I've met myself.
Yeah.
I can't meet you any other place. Yeah. So if I'm accepting of who I am, tensions aside, I'm going to be able to see you through who you truly are and not through the lens of how I see the world. Because most of the time we're seeing other people through who we are, not who they are.
Yeah.
So if you know, for example, you're a red person, you want your husband to do something, don't ask him when you're in a mood. Don't ask him to do something when you're in a mood, because you want it done even quicker because you're already irritated. Don't put your irritation
ask with compassion or with love. You're going to ask with aggression and
that personality type. The blind spot is people anyway.
Yeah.
So when you know yourself, you can dress back and be like, listen, only a few times in the last 14 years has my husband turned to me and said, who do you think you're talking to? Instantly, I know I've gone way too far. I don't even question.
Even him to say that, yeah.
I don't even question, because he don't use that type of verbiage. It's been about 3 times in the last 14 years. If my husband says to me, who do you think you're talking to? It's a violation I've committed. And I apologize on sight, even if I don't know what it is I did or what I said. But because I understand who I am and who he is, I'm just apologizing on sight. Really sorry. Like, address it back. Yeah, and we can utilize the best of each other and build something incredible as a family, because we know where the strengths are. We know where the superpowers are. We already know when the points of challenges. Like Raheem sometimes will say to me, Dee, just go to bed. Go to bed. Just go and rest. Go to bed.
I can see it as well.
You understand? And I'm like, oh, okay. And certain times when he gets super excited, he'll just be talking like 50,000 miles per hour. And then he'll be like, yeah, because of this. And I'm like, babe, but I already knew that. Oh, sorry, I didn't think to ask. Back in the day, it used to get on my nerves. Like, he's just so smart and he just knows everything and he's just there spoiling my experience of things, right? So it can make for a more harmonious family life, because we're now purposefully bending around each other.
And being mindful
and being accommodating. No, I don't mean it's perfect now.
No,
we'll also be having argument and all that type of thing and miscommunication.
But I love that
just
you can
very
say
quietly,
that, because it can be assumed one way and life be life and humans be human in being.
And that little thing that we felt we dealt with from 25 years ago comes up today of all days.
Actually, you haven't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then, last but by certainly no means least, that's your primary relationship. You take you wherever you go. Mm-hmm. That is why you will leave one situation, you will be in another situation, and guess what happens? The same damn thing that happened in the last situation. Because there are some things that, we need to deal with.
Yeah, we haven't worked on or acknowledged. Yeah.
When I got to the point where I realized that, okay, the uni thing's not really going to work for me, and I've done this and I've done that and the other, and I just want it to be easy. I just want to be able to go and get a degree and get a job and this and the other. I realized that's just not my energy. It's not me. And there's nothing wrong with those things. I'm talking about identifying who you are. I had a very definite, obvious skill set that I could take anywhere. But because I was so busy trying to do things like other people, I'm trying to do it like the blue people, right? I was missing all my gold, all my treasure, all my riches. And we all have something. I don't care what it is. You bake the best brownies. Yeah. You have an eye for decor. You're able to be pitch perfect. You're able to hear a note and you're able to replay it. I know in business what it is. Every single one of us has been gifted. And where your gifts are is where your treasure lies. And the gift will keep trying to insert itself into your life. But then, you've got but I've got bills to pay, crew and whatever. And I'm like, yes, we all ain't eating fresh air out here. But there is something that you do that is so easy for you, that is so accessible, that is like breathing, that's so embodied, that you are talented at. And whether you use it in a commercial or non-commercial way, that is where your treasure is. But if you're busy looking out here and listening to this Tom, Dick and Harry, who don't even know the farthest thing about you, they're trying to tell you to be an accountant, and anyone can be an accountant. But people who are most likely to be an accountant have blue personality types.
If you're red or yellow.
Now, it doesn't mean you don't go into accountant.
But
when you start getting restless,
listen to that part of yourself.
Because from you, all things flow downstream. So when people say to me, what's the highest use of understanding your personality? And there's other dynamics, as I've alluded to. So you've got the beliefs and the biology as well. When you understand you, understand that is where your life starts to open. That's the beginning point. When you accept you is when you have the potential to find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. When you surrender to who you are, that's success.
So tricky, isn't it? The whole self-acceptance and then the surrendering. That's a battle within itself.
But we make it more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah.
We do. We make it, as human beings are real good at making things so much more complicated.
How can we make it more simpler?
Observation is a really underrated tool. Investing in the time to really, and when I say observe, I'm talking observe yourself. This is not about others at the moment, especially our green cousins. Observing yourself. What do I like? What don't I like? What are my thoughts? What are things that I believe that I thought are coming from me that I was making a conscious decision about, but actually have been implanted by family, culture, society, religion, whatever, and we're not doing down any of those things.
No.
But when you are able to observe your nature, like nobody's looking at birds saying, why are you flying? Go and walk.
Yeah.
Because we look at the bird's nature and we accept it for what it is. It's got wings, it's going to fly. But human beings will look at their child or another person and be like, oh, I think you should do this, when you ain't got wings. You can't tell me how to fly.
It's powerful, it's deep, and very necessary to even be having these. I wouldn't think. It's interesting that we're having these kinds of conversations still now, but I'm still trying to be not harsh or judgmental on it. Do you get what I'm saying? But it's just profound to me. Are there certain personality traits that often get a bad rep but actually have hidden strengths? I feel like you kind of covered this a little bit, but
yeah. So they can all of the personality types can have negative connotations. So there's some of the perceived negatives about reds are the blind spot. It's people.
Yeah, that's a
and domineering and controlling, but it's how you will those things. So I use my red personalities. I'm very high on red as well. I'm highest on yellow, but the red is not too far behind. But once I realized that actually my predominant personality is yellow, it's a bit softer. A little bit less rough around the edges. But I use that ability to be able to be focused and directional to help benefit others.
Just finding the balance between the two.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was working with somebody the other day and we were looking at what they were pricing for their products. And this is a person who was having some internal battle about, well, how can I charge for a small amount of time and work on one day what I would normally charge for a month, right? So I'm like, bet. And I said to the person, you've been probably doing this for about 30 years, haven't you? And they were like, how did you know that? I was like, that was an educated guess. We love to guess, and I'm good at it. So the people that are not paying you for the 6 hours, they're paying you for the approximate 150,000 hours that you've spent being able to deliver for them in 6 hours. Unless you get clear on what it is you're being paid for, you cannot charge appropriately. So I've used that directionality and focus to present something to that person. They came to their own insight. They then popped up and said, now you've said it like that, what I was going to charge them is actually really cheap.
Yeah.
I never told you that.
Yeah.
But I've presented it and framed it in such a way where in 2 seconds, you've been able to overcome an internal objection that you've had for years. So I'm utilizing the power for good. Yeah. So instead of just domineering, controlling, directional, focused, for me, I'm controlling the narrative in that conversation because I understand that if I control the narrative in this conversation, you can come to your own insight. Instead of me domineering you into, well, you're not charging enough, etc., etc. So that's the red. With the yellow, one of the criticisms, lack of focus. Not focused, blind spot is task. But that lack of focus enables the flexibility.
And the creativity.
And that yellow person can reach places that other people can't.
Yeah.
How did you get a meeting with so-and-so?
Yeah.
Allow us to skip steps, right? The green, one of the criticisms is they're too soft. They don't have enough boundaries. They're always doing things. They build up trust though, and they have a social equity with people that is so strong. Again, they can get into places that other people can't reach. And you can be a silent assassin because people are often not looking for you to be the one, but you can be the one. And you can pow, 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 pow. Come and just done up the players and everyone will be like,
Hey, what just happened?
exactly. Also, one of the things with our green cousins as well is because there's a lot of others focused, sometimes our green people can blow up. I don't even necessarily mean shouting, screaming or anything like that, but they will be very expressive of their dissatisfaction because a lot of the time it's been simmering underneath, and then once they get it off their chest, everyone's like, what happened? What happened to them? What? And then with our blues, again, the blind spot is the people focus, and people can find their standards too high to match up to. But that ability to be so precise and have such an impeccable standard can be wielded in so many different ways. It's just up to, for example, if it's in a work context, for you to have those other supportive structures like, okay, people need to be a line item.
Thank you. That was a terrific breakdown. I feel like you kind of almost started to answer this, but we're going to answer it anyway because you've been answering all my questions. Like, what's the point?
I'm reading your
my mind. Yeah, like, jeez. It's like you're seeing the reflection of the questions in my lenses or something. So your personal journey.
Yes.
Has learning about personality dynamics changed the way you parent or navigate relationships in your own life?
1 billion naira, 30 billion naira %, 100%. Because for me, having a very high red, natural, dominant personality, I got to the point where I realized that I could not browbeat my way through life. So finding and crafting and honing these skills has meant that I have an easier life, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Instead of pushing and running and running and pushing, I allow things to come to me, opportunities. I do not agree with the moniker of hard work. You might have to work hard for a season. That's on you. I'd rather sit on the beach. I'd rather do an hour for the week and be done with it. So from a personal level, my life has a lot more ease than it did before when I was just behaving like a red person. It's been able to give me empathy for different types of people. So our blue cousins used to be the ones who I had the toughest time with because they were just slow, fam. And I just wanted you to just speed up. But when I realized, like, yo, if you want to speed them up, you just need to make sure they got their resources. And actually there's such, like, I admire their precision and impeccability so much because that's just not me. Like, I will just get it done and get it out, you know? So it's given me a way to admire, like, all of our cousins that I have, you know, lower colors in, which is the blue and the green. And it's given me a great empathy for other people. So even our red family and other people might be like, oh, they're this, they're that, and the other. I'm like, really, that's just how they're wired. Nobody woke up today trying to offend you. The reason why you're so offended is because you're a people person. And because I understand that apart from if you're being bad man now, you're going to get checked. You know, when I deal with no response to no bad behavior, no bad business. But I'm like, oh, Shirley she be Shirley and
fair enough.
That's it. Yeah. She just be
appreciate that. Cool. So, do you have a message for Black British parents?
Apart from peace. Thank you for your time and your attention in this podcast episode. It is greatly appreciated. I always strive to keep feeling that these are honorable experiences for me to be able to, from where I came from, to even be featured, guesting on podcasts, being able to share my life, my experience, my expertise, my mistakes is such an honorable position for me to be in. And I want people to know, or Black British parents to know, that the more that you are you, life will open up in ways that you could never have imagined. But the more that you continue to do what you feel you should do or be who you feel you should be, your life will contract in ways that you could not imagine. So the choice ultimately is yours. If you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. But you are deserving. It's your birthright to have a beautiful life, to have beautiful experiences. But with every right comes a responsibility. So if you're willing to take that responsibility and go on that journey of self-discovery, I encourage you to do that. My DMs are open. You can contact me on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm not a poster. I'm a DM ninja. I build relationships, as is my personality. And I will be sharing my resources and make sure that you guys can tap in and hopefully see you live in the flesh at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's what you almost kind of reeled off, but please share with us. Thank you first of all, thank you so much, Dayna, for making the time in this cold weather to be here and
only for you, Deb.
I appreciate it. And obviously sharing this profound perspective and dynamic of simplifying, but without minimizing our personalities, the way that you have been able to with this system that you've developed and built. And again, thank you so much. It means so much to me all the time. Anytime we connect, I love it all the time. But please share with our listeners how they can get in contact with you.
Yes, so I can be reached Instagram and LinkedIn. So it's Dayna, Dayna Byfield, Byfield. And the best email address to get me on is connect, so connect, CONNECT, at thepeopleway.global. So that's connect at thepeopleway.global. And like I said, we'll share resources so that you can tap in for you individually and also for the children as well, because that's really, really important.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode on the Black British Parent Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you gained from it as much as I did and have. And again, thank you and take care until next time.